loves Poe stories. I know, quite shocking. Today is the Angel of the Odd. So without further ado, let's get into it. It was a chilly November afternoon. I had just consummated an unusually hearty dinner, of which the dyspeptic truffle formed not a least important item, and was sitting alone in the dining room with my feet up upon the fender, and at my elbow a small table which I had rolled upon the fire, and upon which were some apologies for dessert, with some miscellaneous bottles of wine, spirit, and liqueur. In the morning I had been reading Glover's Leonidas, Wilkie's Epgonod, Lamartine's Pilgrimage, Paulo's Columbiad, Tuckerman's Sicily, Griswold's Curiosities. I am willing to confess, therefore, I had now felt a little stupid. I made effort to arouse myself by frequent aid of Lafayette, and all failing, I bestook myself to a stray newspaper in despair. Having carefully pursued the column of houses to let, and the column dogs lost, and the columns wives and apprentices run away, I attacked with great resolution an editorial manner, and reading it from beginning to end without understanding a syllable, conceived the possibility of it being Chinese, and so reread it from end to beginning, but with no more satisfactory results. I was about to throw away in disgust when I felt my attention somewhat aroused by the paragraph which follows. The avenues to death are numerous and strange. A London paper mentions the degree of a person from a singular cause. A London paper mentions a decease of a person from a singular cause. He was playing at Puff the Dart, which is played with a long needle inserted in some worsted and blown at a target through a thin tube. He placed the needle at the wrong end of the tube, and drawing his breath strongly to puff the dart forward with force, drew the needle into his throat. It entered the lungs, and in a few days killed him. Upon seeing this, I fell into a great rage, without exactly knowing why. "This thing," I exclaimed, "is a contemptible falsehood, a poor hoax, the lees of the innovation of some pitiable penny liner, or some wretched connoisseur of Edison's incogni. These fellows, knowing the extravagant gullible of age, set their wits to work in the imagination of improbable possibilities, of odd accidents, as they term them. But to a reflecting intellect like mine, I add in parentheses, putting my forefinger unconsciously at the side of my nose, to a contemplative understanding such as myself possess, it seems evident at once that the marvelous increase of the late in these odd accidents is by far the oddest accident of all. For my own part, I intend to believe nothing henceforward that has anything of the singular about it. Mingotten den vatevol bees for dat, replied one of the most remarkable voices I've ever heard. At first I took it for a rumbling in my ears, such as a man sometimes experiences experiences when getting very drunk. But upon second thought, I considered the sound as more of a nearly resembling which that proceeds from an empty barrel beaten with a big stick. And in fact, this I should have concluded it to be, but for the articulation of the syllables and words. I am by no means naturally nervous, and for the very few glasses of Lafayette which I had sipped served to embolden me just a little, so I felt nothing of trepidation, but merely uplifted my eyes with a leisurely movement and looked carefully around the room for the intruder. I could not, however, perceive anyone at all. "Humph," resumed the voice as I continued my survey. "You must be so drunk as depicted, for the not I sit you at your side. Hereupon I bethought of me looking immediately before my nose, and there, sure enough, confronting me at the table, sat a personage nondescript, although not altogether indescribable. His body was of a wine pipe or a rum puncheon, or something of that character, and had a truly Falstaffan air, and all neither extremely were inserted two kegs, which had to answer the purpose of legs. For arms dangled from the upper portion of the carcass two tolerably long bottles with necks outward for hands. All the head I saw the monster possess was one of those Hessen canteens, which resembled a large snuff box with a hole in the middle of the lid. This canteen, with a funnel on top like a cavalier cap slouched over the eyes, was set on the edge upon the puncheon, and the hole towards myself, and through this hole, which seemed puckered up like a mouth of a very precise old maid, the creature emanating certain rumblings and crumbling noises, which he evidently intended for the intelligible talk. "I say," he said, "you must be very drunk as a pig for see there and not see me see dear. And I say, do you must be bigger fool as the goose for to disbelieve that is pretty pint. 'Tis the truth, that is, 'tis every word of it." "Who are you, pray?" I said with much dignity, although somewhat puzzled. "How did you get here? And what is it that you are talking about?" "As for how I did come here," replied the figure, "that is none of your business, and as for that I be talking about, I be talk about that I think proper, and as for who I be, that is very thing I come at here for to let you see for yourself." "You are a drunken vagabond," said I, "and I shall ring the bell and order my footman to kick you from the street." Said the fellow, "Oh, that you can't do." "Can't do," said I. "What do you mean? I can't do what?" "Ring the bell," he replied, attempting a grin with his little villainous mouth. Upon this, I made an effort to get up in order to put my threat into execution, but the ruffian just reached across the table very deliberately, and hitting me on the tap of the forehead with the neck of one of those long bottles, knocked me back into the armchair, from which I had half arisen. I was utterly astounded, and for a moment was I was always under the impression, but I was always under the impression that an angel had wings. "T-wing," he cried, highly incensed. "That I be to me, T-wing. Mein Gott, do you take me for a chicken?" "Oh no," I replied, much alarmed. "You are no chicken, certainly not." "Well then, sit still and behave yourself, or I'll rap you again mid me fist. It is the chicken ab die wing, on the owl ab die wing, on the ib ab die wing, on the half tuffle ab die wing. The angel ab not the wing, I am the angel o the odd. And your business with me at present is my pieces beneath," ejaculated the thing. "Vitva allo, but puppy you must be for to ask the gentleman on the angel about his business." The language was rather more than I could bear, even from an angel. So plucking up the courage, I seized the salt cellar which lay within reach, and hurled it at the head of the intruder. Either he dodged, however, or my aim was inaccurate, for all I accomplished was the demolition of the crystal which protected the dial of the clock upon the mantelpiece. As for the angel, he evicted his sense of my assault by giving me 2 or 3 hard consecutive raps upon the forehead as before. These reduced me at once to submission, and I am almost ashamed to confess that, either through pain or vexation, there came a few tears into my eyes. "Mein Gott," the angel of the odd, apparently much softened at my distress. "Mein Gott, the man der very drunk or very sorry. You must not think it so strong. You must put the water in the wine. You think this, like good fella, and don't cry, now don't." Hereupon the angel of the odd replenished my goblet, which was about 1/3 full of port, and the colorless fluid that poured from his hand on the bottles. I observed that these bottles had labels about the necks, and these labels were inscribed. The considered kindness of the angel mollified me in little measure, and aided by the water which he diluted my port more than once, I at length regained sufficient temper to listen to his extraordinary discourse. I cannot pretend to recount all that he told me, but I gleaned from what he said that it was a genius who persisted over the contemptness of mankind, and whose business it was to bring about the odd accidents which continually astounding the skeptic. Once or twice, upon my venturing to express my total incredulity in respect to his pretensions, he grew very, very angry indeed, so that at length I considered it the wiser policy to say nothing at all, and let him have his own way. He talked on, therefore, at great length, while I merely leaned back in my chair with my eyes shut, and amused myself with the munching of raisins and flipping of the stems about the room. But by and by the angel suddenly constructed this behavior of mine into contempt. He arose in a terrible passion, slouched his funnel down over his eyes, swore a vast oath, uttering a threat of some character which I did not precisely comprehend, and finally made me a low bow, departed, wishing me in the language of the Archbishop of Gilbias, bien coup de bonheur. descends. His departure afforded me relief, for the very few glasses of Lafitte that I had sipped had the effect of rendering me drowsy, and I felt inclined to take a nap of some 15 or 20 minutes, as is my custom after dinner. After 6, an appointment of consequence, which it is quite indispensable that I should keep. The policy of insurance for my dwelling house that expired the day before, in some dispute having arisen when I agreed that at 6 I should meet the board of directors of the company and settle the terms of a renewal, glancing upwards at the clock on the mantelpiece, for I felt too drowsy to take out my watch. I had the pleasure to find that I had still 25 minutes to spare. It was 5:30. I could easily walk to the insurance office in 5 minutes, and my usual status had never been known to exceed 25. I felt sufficiently safe, therefore, and composed myself to slumbers forthwith. Having completed them to my satisfaction, I again looked towards the timepiece, and was half inclined to believe in the possibility of odd accidents, when I found that instead of my ordinary 15 or 20 minutes, I had only been dozing for 3, for it is still wanted 7:20 of the appointed hour. I betook myself again to nap, and at length a second time awoke, when, to my utter amazement, it had wanted 27 minutes of 6. I jumped up to examine the clock, and I found that it had ceased running. My watch informed me that it was 7:30, and of course, having slept 2 hours, I was too late for my appointment. It will make no difference, I said. I can call the office in the morning, and apologize in the meantime what I can be the matter with the clock. Upon examining it, I discovered that one of the raisin stems, which I had been flipping about the room during the discourse of the Angel of the Odd, had flown through the fractured crystal, and lodging singularly enough in the keyhole, with an end projecting outward, and thus arrested the revolution of the minute hand. "Ah," I said, "I see how it is. This thing speaks for itself. A natural accident such as this will happen now and then." I gave the matter no further consideration, and at my usual hour retired to bed. Here, having placed a candle upon the reading stand at the bed head, and having made an attempt to pursue some pages of the omnipresence of the deity, I unfortunately fell asleep in less than 20 seconds, leaving the light burning as it was. My dreams were terrifically disturbed by visions of the Angel of the Odd. Methought he stood at the door, at the foot of the couch, drew aside the curtains, and in the hollow, despicable tones of a Rampunchian, menaced with my bitterest vengeance for the contempt in which I had treated him. He concluded a long harangue by taking off his funnel cap, inserting the tube into my gullet, and thus deluging me with an ocean of liquor, which he had poured into a continuous flood from one long neck to the bottles that stood about him against my arm. My agony was at length insufferable, and I woke just in time to perceive that a rat had run off with the lighted candle from the stand, but not in season to prevent its making escape through the hole. Very soon a strong, sufficient odor assailed my nostrils. The house, I clearly perceived, was on fire. In a few minutes the blaze broke forth with violence, and in an incredible brief period the entire building was wrapped in flames. means of this, I was descending rapidly and in apparent safety when a huge hog, whose rounded stomach and indeed whose air of and physiology was something reminded me of the Angel of the Odd. When this hog, I say, which a year through had been quietly slumbering in the mud, took it suddenly in his head, left shoulder, needed scratching, and could find no more convenient rubbing post than the afforded by the foot of the ladder. In an instant I was precipitate, and had the misfortune to fracture my arm. With us about halfway through of the Angel of the Odd, I will end part 1 and resume the rest of this in part 2. I hope you enjoyed that so far. Please don't hesitate to let me know what you want to hear in the comments. My plan is to start fairly soon